In this video, we're going to do the lab drawing the line. The first thing we need to do is make a point class. So make a new class called point that will be a bundle of a couple of variables and methods for defining a single point in X and Y location, like a point on a graph. So those are our two instance variables, double X, double Y, and these are going to be our coordinate pairs. So I've got my lab started over here, and I'm going to make a point class. And we'll begin with the instance variables. I need a double for X and a double for Y. So the methods, we need a constructor, so that's going to be public point, double X val, double Y val. This is a constructor and it initializes the instance variables to the values of the parameters and creates a new point object. So let's build in our constructor. So public point takes in a double X val and a double Y val. These two parameters are going to initialize my instance variables. Constructor is finished. So public string get string. This is a method that returns a string that shows the state of the object for printing a text version of the point. Copy and paste below. Let's see if I can do that out of this document. First, I need the method header. Let me make sure I got the header right. I'm sorry, it's get string, not toString. So let me fix that. All right, so this is going to give us a string representation of this object, and you can see that it's going to label the X value and the Y value for us. So number 2, we're going to create a class called line, and this class models a line. A line is simply a connection between 2 points. So a line is comprised of 2 points along with a couple of methods. So our instance variables will be a point for the first point and a point for the second point. And that'll create our line. So I have to make a class. I'm going to go back over here and make a class called line. And this will have 2 instance variables. A point, and notice I'm using my other class already. So let's say first point. Second point. The methods that we need to add are public line, double x1, double y1, double x2, double y2. This is a constructor and it initializes the 2-point instance variables to 2 new point objects, given the values of the parameters to create a new line object. So we're also going to create a second constructor, public line, that takes in point P1 and point P2. This is what's known as an overloaded constructor because we'll write this constructor at the top and then this constructor second, and it initializes 2-point instance variables to the values of the parameters and creates a line object. So this one takes in raw x, y coordinates, and this one takes in points. But in the end, we end up with 2 points for our class. So to initialize the first point, I have to construct a point with x1 and y1, and we'll do the same for the second point. The first constructor is finished. This one will have a different parameter list. It'll have point P1 and point P2. So these points are already constructed. So the first point will be P1 and the second point will be P2. So our constructors are finished. Next we have a method called getSlope. So this returns a double, which is the slope of the line. And I'm going to have to calculate that. We'll start with the method header. Public double getSlope. And to calculate this, the slope is defined by the rise over the run. So that's the difference of the y values over the difference of the x values. So I'm going to return a formula. So I have to get the second point y value minus the first point's y value. And that is going to be divided by the difference between the x values. Okay, that should be correct. And lastly, we need a public string getString method. And this is a method that returns a string that allows a line to be printed in a useful way. And I'm just going to copy paste this code if I could select it. Public string get string. So I pasted that in and this method is complete. So we have a complete class here. So part 3, we're going to create a new class called Runner with a public static void main, and we're going to complete the following exercises. So let me get the class set up and then we'll come back and do the alphabet letters here. And I'm going to call mine a line runner just so that I know it goes with the line classes. Here's my main method. A, make a point called P1 with these coordinates for the x and y, and then make a point object P2 with these coordinates. So I'm going to try to remember these: 23.14, 4.87, so back 23.14, 4.87, and we're going to make point 2, calling our constructor 15.2, 6.87. Okay, step C. Make a line object called line1 with P1 and P2 supplied for the constructor. So this time I'm going to call the line constructor, and I'm going to pass in P1 and P2. And the second constructor that we wrote is the constructor that will be called for this. Next, we're going to make line 2, and it has these values for the x1, y1, x2, y2. 12.45, 8.1. 9.2, 14.7. E says print the line object, line 1 object, and we're going to print it by calling its getString. Next, we're going to print line 2 by calling its getString method. Okay. Next, we're going to print a call to the getSlope for line 1 and then getSlope for line 2. And then we're going to call the runner's main method, and your output should look something like this. So I'm going to run this, and we'll look at the output. So I believe that the points look correct. And then the slope for line 1 should be negative 0.25, and the slope for the other one should be negative 2.0. And that looks correct. So let's look at our classes one more time. So this is the line runner class. This is the line class. And this is the point class.